Right now, you are the only kind of animal on this entire planet that cooks its food. Think about that for a second. Every other creature alive, the lion, the shark, the bird outside your window, eats everything cold, raw, exactly the way it found it. Not you. You heat it, you burn it on purpose, and you've been doing it for so long that your body literally cannot survive properly without it anymore. So here's the question nobody really asks. When did this start? When did one of your ancestors look at a fire, the most terrifying thing in nature, and decide to put dinner in it? The answer is older than you think, and it might be the reason you have a brain at all. Let's get one thing clear first. Cooking is weird. We treat it as normal because every single human does it. But step back and look at the rest of the animal kingdom, and you are the lone exception. No other species heats its meals. A chimpanzee, which shares almost all of your DNA, will eat a piece of fruit raw, chewing for hours, and never once think about a fire. And for hours is not an exaggeration. Great apes spend somewhere between 4 and 7 hours every single day just chewing. That's it. That's most of their waking life, jaw moving, grinding down tough raw plants, trying to squeeze out enough calories to stay alive. Now compare that to you. You eat a cooked meal in, what, 10 minutes? 20? And here's something you've probably never noticed about your own face. Your jaw is weak, your teeth are tiny. Compared to your distant ancestors, your whole chewing setup is almost pathetically small. A creature that ate only raw, tough food would need powerful jaws and big grinding teeth just to survive. You don't have them. You lost them because at some point your ancestors stopped needing to do all that work with their mouths. Something else was doing it for them first. That something was fire. Cooking does something almost magical to food. It breaks down the tough fibers in plants. It softens the connective tissue in meat. It basically does a huge part of the digestion for you before the food ever reaches your mouth. Which means cooking didn't just change what your ancestors ate. It changed how much time they had. Suddenly there were hours in the day that weren't spent chewing. Hours that could go toward hunting, building, thinking. But to unlock all of that, somebody had to take the first step. Somebody had to control fire. And figuring out when that happened is one of the hardest mysteries in the entire story of being human. Here's the problem. Fire doesn't leave a body. When you dig up an old bone, you can study it for millions of years. But a fire burns, flickers, and disappears into smoke. Trying to prove that someone, hundreds of thousands of years ago, deliberately cooked a meal instead of just standing near a wildfire is incredibly difficult. And there's a deeper trap hiding here. Even when scientists do find ancient traces of fire, that alone proves nothing about cooking. Think about it. A lightning strike sets a forest ablaze all on its own. So if you find burnt ground from 500,000 years ago, how do you know an early human made that fire on purpose? Instead of just walking past a wildfire, the sky lit up for free. Maybe a hominin picked up a single smoldering branch and carried it home, never lighting anything themselves. Controlling fire and using fire to cook are two completely different milestones. And telling them apart across hundreds of thousands of years is brutally hard. So scientists became detectives, and the oldest solid clue they've found so far comes from a lake in what is now Israel. At a site there, researchers dug up a massive pile of fish remains. We're talking about the teeth of an enormous carp, a fish that could grow up to 2 meters long. But these weren't just any teeth. These were the small teeth fish used deep in their throat to grind up food. And when the team looked closely, those teeth told a secret. See, tooth enamel changes when it's heated. The tiny crystals inside it expand depending on the temperature. So by measuring those crystals, the scientists could work out exactly how hot these fish had gotten. And the answer was not the blast of a raw wildfire. It was a steady, controlled heat under 500 degrees, the temperature of cooking. Those fish were cooked roughly 780,000 years ago. And don't rush past how insane that actually is. Fire is the one thing every animal on Earth is hardwired to run from. It's chaos, it's death, it eats forests, and everything in them. Yet somewhere back there, one of your ancestors did the unthinkable. They stopped running. They walked toward the flames, learned to feed them, to carry them, to keep them alive through the night. That single act of taming the most dangerous force around them might be the bravest thing our species ever did, and they did it before they could even speak. Let that number sink in. Almost 800,000 years ago, one of your distant ancestors caught a fish, controlled a fire well enough to cook it gently, and understood, somehow, that cooked fish was better than raw. That is the oldest hard proof we have of cooking, and it shattered the previous record by about 600,000 years. But here's where it gets strange, because some scientists look at that date and say, that's not the beginning. That's nowhere near the beginning. The real story starts much, much earlier, and the proof isn't in the ground. It's inside your own body. This is where one man changed the whole argument. A Harvard scientist named Richard Wrangham had a radical idea. He said, stop looking only at ashes and burnt bones. Look at us. Look at how human bodies are built, because our bodies are screaming that we've been cooking for far longer than any campfire we've ever found. His reasoning goes like this: your brain is a monster. It's one of the most energy-hungry organs you own. For someone just sitting still, roughly every fifth meal you eat goes purely to feed your brain. Nothing else, just keeping the lights on up there. So how did our ancestors ever afford such an expensive, greedy brain? Where did all those extra calories come from? Wrangham's answer: fire. Cooking unlocks far more energy from the same food than eating it raw ever could. He argued that no early human could have eaten enough raw food to grow a brain like yours. The math simply doesn't work. To build the brain you're using right now, somebody had to be cooking, and the body backs him up in a chilling way. There's an idea called the expensive tissue hypothesis. It points out something eerie. In the animal kingdom, a big brain tends to come with a small gut. The two seem to trade off against each other, and that is exactly what happened to us. Picture a gorilla, big round barrel-shaped belly, because it needs a huge gut to slowly digest mountains of raw plants. Now picture a human, narrow waist, small gut, enormous brain. As our ancestors evolved, the energy that used to power that giant digestive system got quietly redirected upward into the skull. The gut shrank, the brain ballooned, and cooking, Wrangham says, is what made that trade possible. Sit with that for a moment. It means the thing you call you, your thoughts, your memories, the voice reading these words in your head, might exist because somewhere around 1 million years ago, an ancestor you'll never know threw food onto a fire. So that's it, right? Cooking made us human. Case closed. Not so fast, because here's the uncomfortable truth, and it's important to say it out loud. Not everyone agrees, and the gap in the evidence is enormous. Wrangham says cooking began nearly 2 million years ago, but the solid archaeological proof, actual cooked food in the dirt, only reaches back to those fish around 780,000 years ago. That's a gap of over 1 million years with almost nothing to fill it. 1 million years of we think, but we can't prove it, and some scientists have pushed back hard. A study argued that the human brain expanded on its own timeline, that its growth doesn't actually line up neatly with fire and cooking the way Wrangham's theory needs it to. Maybe it was meat. Maybe it was a wider, smarter diet. Maybe cooking came along later and just made a good thing better. So the honest answer to when did humans start cooking is this: we don't know. We have a confident lower limit, almost 800,000 years. We have a bold, brain-sized theory stretching back nearly 2 million. And in between, there's a vast, dark stretch of time where the fires have long gone cold and the smoke has cleared, leaving us guessing. It's one of the biggest open questions about where you came from, and it may never be fully answered, but maybe that's the part worth holding on to. Somewhere out there in deep time, there was a first one, a first ancestor who didn't run from the fire, who reached toward it and changed everything. We will probably never know their name, their face, or the exact day it happened. That moment is gone forever, and yet you carry it with you. Every time you smell something cooking and your mouth waters before you've even seen the food. That's not random. That's a craving written into you across 1 million years. A reflex older than language, older than cities, older than almost everything you think of as human. You are the only animal that cooks, and it just might be the reason you're the animal that wonders why. So next time you sit down to a warm meal, remember, you're not just eating, you're finishing something your ancestors started a very, very long time ago. If this made you look at your dinner a little differently, you know what to do. I'm Fred. I'll see you in the next one.